we just witnessed what has happened with this past presidential election. Everyone knows now that Joe Biden has been elected to be the next president of the United States of America. Now, there are some things that I do question about this. And for anybody who's been following my videos for a number of years, know that I've stated something like this back in late 2013, which is about somewhere around 6 or 7 years ago. And I've told people that one way that you can gain and gauge information is being able to pick up patterns, consistencies, and track records. And when consistencies or patterns are broken, these things can tell you a lot about a person. Now, one of the things that they have mentioned, and this is what has me questioning this past election, is they state that Joe Biden has the most support, has the most votes out of any president in the history of the United States. Once again, we're not talking about within the past 10, 15, 20 years. We're talking about within the history of the United States. This is what has been stated. More so than any other president, including former President Barack Obama. Now, something about that, I'm really not believing that, because we know that Barack Obama had the black support within 98% within the first election. And we also know in the second election, black people turned out for him in 93%. So as we sit back and listen to Joe Biden, and when you just look at his rallies, the fact that most of his rallies were empty, I don't remember him actually having large rallies. Then I got to wonder, how is it that you have all of this support, more so than even President Barack Obama? Now, from what I've seen, I believe it was about one or two of Joe Biden's rallies. I seen a rally that Kamala Harris did in, I believe it was Las Vegas, and not many people were there. Alicia Keys was the one who opened up her rally, kicked it off. And even then, still, there wasn't many people who actually attended this rally. Barack Obama, on the other hand, had a rally. And he managed to have a lot of people in this rally. And I'm talking about when he was actually supporting Joe Biden, not one of his rallies back in 2012 or 2008. I'm talking about recently. So as I sit back and I look at these numbers and I start to question, how is it that this man, and I'm talking about Joe Biden now, can have so much support out of the people out of this nation, but yet and still his rallies don't even have a whole lot of people? And I told y'all when this coronavirus hit, I believe I told y'all when I did my last video really diving into this whole coronavirus, that this coronavirus is not by coincidence. If you think that in 2020, during election year, the coronavirus hits and this was not something that was strategically planned and plays right into what we are dealing with right now with Joe Biden about to be the next president, then I'm not sure what else I can tell you. But yeah, actually, there's a couple of things I can tell you, and I'll attempt to break it down in this video. Now, where you choose to go with it from there, that's on you. But here's what I've noticed, and this is what they have used in order to demonize Trump. Because the one thing about Donald Trump is he's always been able to hold large amounts of people at his rallies. This is what has taken place ever since he's been running for his second term, which, whether he gets it or not, I don't know. People are saying he's going to take this to the Supreme Court. I don't know how that's going to turn out. We'll just have to wait and see how that turns out. But what they have said about Donald Trump is pretty much based off of him holding all of these rallies. They have demonized him, or pretty much him having large gatherings and crowds, they classify him as a super spreader. That's what they said, because we know at some point Donald Trump had the coronavirus and managed to make a fast recovery from this thing. What Donald Trump did was throw a monkey wrench in their entire strategy. And this is another reason why I don't like him. Which leads me to really wonder if this election was actually fair, which I don't believe it was. But this is how they're demonizing Donald Trump. He's having a whole lot of people. He doesn't care about the American people. He's a super spreader. What he's doing is creating an event where he's a super spreader. And a super spreader of what? Coronavirus. They use that as a means to justify Joe Biden's lack of support or lack thereof of people showing up at his rallies. And the excuse of what they're saying is, well, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are playing it safe and they care about the American people, meaning that they're having fewer people at their rallies. And I'm honestly not buying that. What I really believe it is people are just not showing up. I mean, when you talk about Joe Biden, here is a man who sounds incoherent. Here is a man who stumbles across, he can't even remember his name half the goddamn time. We're talking about a man who is 77 years old, a senior citizen. This guy's older than Donald Trump. He's not enthusiastic as far as I'm concerned. He's not charismatic like Barack Obama. Say what you want to say about him. Barack Obama is charismatic. I can see how he can hold an audience. But what they're saying is, well, the reason why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris aren't able to hold an audience is because they're being safe when it comes down to coronavirus. They care about the American people. Now, we all know what had happened with Kamala Harris back in 2019. She tried to run as president, trying to state that she was a black woman, which she is clearly not. But yet and still, you're going to have many gullible, stupid-ass Negroes running around classifying this woman who's more Indian and Asian than anything else, maybe a quarter black, but they're going to try to designate her as a black woman. Now, me personally, just on a side note on that level, I think it is more important when you have black men step up to the plate and put a shutdown to foolishness like this. It has that much more potency. It has that much more bite, that much more, well, you don't really care for bark. What I really care about is bite. How strong is the bite? Bark don't have to mean a goddamn thing. So when a black man, or when you have black men that come out and they oppose this and they say, no, that is not a black woman, which I'm seeing many of you brothers on social media stepping up. So it's actually leaving me some hope. But unfortunately, I'm still seeing a bunch of black women and a bunch of biracials or mixed breeds running around classifying this female, this fraudulent wannabe, as a black woman. And that's going to lead me to something else, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We will get into that probably later on in this video. But long story short, Kamala Harris was rejected back in 2019. She had to drop out of the presidential race back in 2019. So how is it now that they have gained this overwhelming amount of support when the American people spoke up and said, no, we don't want this woman as our president? How is it that somehow now she can run as the vice president with a man who is damn near going senile? And we know exactly what this means. Joe Biden is not going to complete one full term. He's not. He's going to be in that White House probably a month to 6 months later. Oh, my head hurts. All right, Joe Biden, you done. Get your ass the hell out of here. Pack your shit up. Here's your severance package. Here's your early retirement benefits package. You got a national security and CIA keeping your ass protected. Go back inside of your basement and go to sleep, Joe. That's what they're going to tell him. And Kamala Harris is going to end up being the president of the United States if this all goes through. So you have to literally start to wonder how this is. How is it that these people have managed to garner so much support when clearly Joe Biden got his ass handed to him by Kamala Harris back in the presidential debates? We've all seen this. And from what I understood, he did not do very well. He did not come across as a strong individual. So how do you tell me that the American people voted for this guy in record number when we see that the track record is not adding up? The consistency is not adding up with this man. And then you start to think about what they say. Okay, Mr. Biden, so why is it that you don't have many people at your rallies? Well, I care about the American people, and I limited the amount of people who can show up to my rallies because I don't want to spread coronavirus. All right, Well, if you look at Donald Trump's rallies, he's a super spreader. He doesn't care about the American people. Once again, I want y'all to understand that this is what they piggybacked off of. When they would have their debates, these were the opening statements, was coronavirus. And then two things that they play off of when it comes down to Donald Trump and how they try to demonize this guy is by using the coronavirus and completely blaming that on him. Then they talk about racism. Trump is a blatant racist. This is what they say, but yet Joe Biden's history and the history of Kamala Harris, I'm going to ask you Negroes a question right now. Because many of y'all will say that y'all voted for this guy because he's the lesser of the two evils. Now you have Joe Biden and Donald Trump, which Donald Trump has said some things, and if you want to believe that he's a racist, that is perfectly fine. I'm not trying to change your opinion. I've stated in the past, I believe the guy's fucking racist. Yes, I do. But I got to look at it from both perspectives because, yes, I believe not only that Donald Trump is a racist, but I also believe Joe Biden is a racist, and I also believe the same thing when it comes down to Kamala Harris. Now, I want y'all to think about something for a second. Here you have President Trump, who has said some things that have offended you. All right. But on the other hand, you have both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who has actually written laws, written legislation into policies that have affected you as black people. Which is worse? A man who says some things that you don't like? Because the last time I checked, Trump didn't write any laws in the legislation that is getting black men locked up in record number. I haven't seen that. But I can tell you who has done this. Joe Biden has, with its Biden's Law 1994 crime bill. Kamala Harris has, when she was a prosecutor back in California. I mean, the track record of these people are horrific. But this is what we're dealing with. So now to get back to my point that I've been trying to make for the past at least 5 minutes now. We know that they're going to demonize Donald Trump with coronavirus. So when we look at Donald Trump's rallies and we see that he has a plethora of people at these rallies who support him, they demonize that and they say that he's a super spreader. Literally, if this were the case, they're not placing any blame on American people for deciding to go out there and attend these rallies, but they'll just blame it on Donald Trump. This is all it is really about. Likewise, when it comes down to Joe Biden and the fact that he has had little to no people at his rallies. And when you ask, why is it that if you have the most support from the American people, more so than any other presidential candidate, how is it that your rallies are so empty? He will turn around and tell you that, well, when it comes down to me and Kamala Harris, we're playing it safe. We care about the American people, and we don't want to have that many people at our rallies, so we limited the numbers of people that we have at our rallies. Now, once again, I want y'all to notice consistencies and track records. The one thing I want y'all to pay attention to when it comes down to the Democratic Party is they are pretty much a monolith. They all operate in the same modus operandi. If the agenda says go south, guess what? Everyone's going to say go south. And you can see this with all of these lamestream media talking figures. You can see this within the social media platforms. You can see this on so many different wavelengths, it's not even funny. So y'all want to keep the numbers down because y'all want to minimize the spread of the virus. Is that what you're really doing? Or is it the fact that nobody is simply showing up and that's the excuse that you're running off of? These are convenient talking points that they have given one another. So now if we're really going to go ahead and go off of that, well, your track record and your consistency and your pattern is really not adding up because we know that Barack Obama is a Democrat. We know that recently Barack Obama held several rallies in support of Joe Biden. What's the difference here between Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden? When you look at Barack Obama's rallies, they're packed with people. When you look at Kamala Harris' rally, at least the one that I've seen, even with Alicia Keys opening up the rally, you still don't have a whole lot of people there. Joe Biden, what's the consistent track record between him and Kamala Harris? You have very little to no people at your rallies. How do you explain this? But the convenient talking point is, well, guess what? We have minimized the amount of people at these rallies because we want to make sure that people are safe and not spreading this coronavirus. We know that Democrats all use monolithic thought. They operate with the same standard operating procedures. So if that's the case, then what do you explain when it comes down to Barack Obama, who was a former Democratic president who ran 2 terms, 8 years in office, in which you can see a night and day difference between Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden? How do you explain that? Unless you're being dishonest. Likewise, when I told y'all about this coronavirus, there's a set of talking points that they give themselves, that Democrats give themselves to have a way out. Now, we know the one thing that they talk about is follow the science, listen to the doctors. Okay. Follow the science, listen to the doctors. Okay. And then you start hearing things that literally don't make any sense. What they say is, well, the numbers of the coronavirus, the spike is through the roof. Joe Biden, in his last presidential debate against Donald Trump, stated how we are entering the darkest days of this coronavirus. We have heard them say time and time again that black people are disproportionately dying of this virus. Okay, we hear them talking about over 250,000 people, somewhere roughly around those numbers, have died due to this coronavirus. 1,000 deaths a day are happening with this coronavirus. Now, we've been hearing this shit since what? Mid to early summer? We are now in what? Mid-fall? But yet, and this is what I want y'all to pick up on, is what they're saying to you in the social media world, in the mainstream media world, and in the digital world, and compared to what you see in reality, are 2 polar opposites. How do you explain this? And what do I mean by this? Okay, they're talking about these darkest days and all these people are getting sick and dying of this coronavirus. Guess what? I'm not seeing these numbers. Because this hit back in what, February of this year, 2020? If you get on I'm from New York City. I live in New York City, born and raised in this city. And yet, when I get up every morning and go to work, I notice that buses are still running back to back like usual. I notice that trains are still bustling down the track, packed like usual. I can get on any road or highway during rush hour and still get stuck in gridlock traffic as if it were 2.5 years ago. So if all of these people are dying and all these numbers, the spike and the surges are taking place, how is it that I can see a polar opposite of what you're saying? Likewise, when they talk about the black community being disproportionately affected by this virus and black people disproportionately dying from this virus. I live in a black community. And throughout the height of this pandemic, what I noticed is you had a conclave of Negroes who were out having cookouts in the middle of the night, not social distancing, cars double parked all over the block. In many cases, I can't even get my car through the block because they got so many damn cars blocking the streets up. And yet still to this day, they're still doing the same thing. And these same Negroes are out doing what they were doing at the beginning of this pandemic. I don't see the ambulance coming through here every single day picking people up. I'm not seeing people fall out and getting sick and coughing and losing breath. I'm not seeing these things. But yet and still, this is literally what they're trying to sell you on. And what I'm telling you is what we are seeing in reality and what they're saying in the virtual world are 2 polar opposites. They're not adding up. Why do I bring you down this long hole? It's pretty simple. Because then when you now decide to ask these people, you're telling us to trust the science, trust the doctors, believe in the evidence. Okay, well, what we're seeing and what you're saying are not consistent. So you have to now explain this. If you're telling us that all of these people are getting sick from this virus, how is it that we're not seeing the death numbers? How come we're not seeing people actively sick? How come we're not seeing the streets closed up? We should see empty streets. We're not seeing this. Then their excuse is, and this is the convenient talking points that they have given each other, is, well, there's a lot of people that are sick, you just won't know it because many of them are asymptomatic. Well, okay, if that's the case, then the virus you mentioned is so deadly and it's 10 times deadlier than a regular flu, to the point where you shut down many cities and states behind this, fucked up people's finances. So what the hell is really taking place? How come I'm not seeing these same people who supposedly get sick and have this virus? How is it that the majority of them are recovering on their own? You still don't even have a cure for the virus. How do you explain that? Then their response to that is, well, we're still learning about the virus. Okay, hold on. You see how they've given themselves a way out, so no matter what you try to pin on them, they can weasel their way out or dance around the answer, the real problem, or scave their way through being questioned. Once again, notice inconsistency. Now, I've come to one conclusion. If I'm not seeing people who are getting the virus and sick, or if they have it and they're asymptomatic, you shut down damn near an entire country for this virus. Now, if that were the case and most of the people are recovering on their own, then number one, you're either telling me that the virus, number one, isn't as deadly as you're making it seem, which you should have never shut down most of the country for this virus, or number two, people are not getting sick with this virus. So which one is it? So when it doesn't make any sense and they can't answer these questions, they then turn around and tell you, well, we're still learning about this virus. Well, hold on a second. Hold the fuck up. Because the virus has been in the United States since what, January? Some reports are saying that it touched ground over here back in November of 2019. So if that's the case, that was a year ago. So how little do you know about this virus in this day and age? You see, once again, notice how they give themselves convenient talking points when they can't make any sense out of what the fuck they're saying. So it's not to say, when you tell me trust the science and trust the doctors, it's not to say that I don't trust science. I question your doctors. But when your scientists are inconsistent with their stories, then somebody's got to come back and question, what the hell are you selling me? An example, Anthony Fauci. A guy who is on video initially stating you don't need to wear the mask outside. And I agree, it makes perfect sense. Why are you wearing a mask outside, especially if you are not in large crowds? It doesn't make any sense. Now all of a sudden, he has changed up his statements to now you need to wear the mask even outside. Well, hold on a second. How are you telling me, why was it that just a few months ago you're telling me I don't need to wear the mask outside? Well, we're still learning about the virus. Okay, then if you're still learning about the virus, then if you don't even know what the hell you're saying to people, how am I supposed to trust you? When you're telling me to trust the scientists and trust the doctors when your stories are so fucking inconsistent. Please make sense out of this for me. But once again, I want y'all to notice something. Give me a sec, I'm gonna put this fan on. And what I want y'all to notice is this monolithic thought to where at one point scientists and doctors had differences of opinions, like Anthony Fauci. His initial stance, and I believe he still knows this deep down inside of his heart of hearts, that you do not need to wear the mask outside. But you notice that the Democratic Party and Democratic operatives align themselves with the same talking points, and they probably told him, listen, no, we can't push that narrative. The narrative has to be that you need to wear the mask everywhere you go. We want to issue mask mandates. This is what Joe Biden has been talking about in his acceptance speeches. That he wants people to do the patriotic thing and wear a mask. The first thing he's going to do is create a mask mandate for people to wear the mask everywhere they go. So even if a scientist or a doctor has a difference of opinion, they're not going to actually state that opinion. Why? Because they know there's a certain set of talking points that they have to use. There are many different things that you have to notice when it comes down to the Democratic Party. And listen, whether you believe Joe Biden won fair and square, or whether you believe that there's something else going on, which is what I'm leaning toward, there's more that meets the eye behind what is taking place. I want you to understand how the mindset of people work. Many of you, especially black people, if you think somewhat like me, then you've experienced what I've recently experienced within these past couple of months. And the coronavirus has really showed you a lot when it comes down to people's intentions and who they really are, and who you can actually align yourself with, and who you need to disaffiliate yourself with. And the reason that I say this is because I'm sure that anybody who thinks like me, who has had countless disagreements with numerous different people, the reason why I say this is because not everyone's going to see eye to eye. This is just the nature of people. We are not all a monolith. But now what I want you to notice about this Democratic Party, how they all unanimously align themselves with the same talking points. Even celebrities, social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands. They'll all say the same thing. Because why? This is an agenda. This is not something that they actually believe in. But they know if they want to keep their lifestyle and what they have, we got to push these talking points. And what they want to create is a monolithic thought. Even to the point where if you go against it, they will try to call you crazy. They will deem you as a heretic. You're a psychopath. You don't know what you're talking about. They will demonize people who literally have differences of opinions. And this is what people really need to start paying attention to. It's throughout the height of all this going on. The riots, I mean, that's another thing that they questioned Anthony Fauci on, and they drilled his ass in a court of law. Do the riots contribute to the spread of the virus? Now, you probably won't be able to find a video because YouTube, we know they'll attempt to shadow ban these videos. This is literally what they do. And what I've noticed is that there are so many, just like when it comes down to Trump putting up his tweets and how they will literally start taking down his tweets. It's to a point now where Facebook, and mainly on Facebook, what I do is I repost. I really don't put up my own original stuff. I'll just repost. And in many cases, I don't even leave a comment or a caption under the post. I just look to read people's responses to it and see how they feel about it. But what I've noticed, and this was within this year, some posts that I've reposted are now being questioned, where Facebook is now fact checking and sending me messages stating, hey, you might want to check this information because it's not entirely accurate. Now, I've done and had the same consistent track record for years where I repost. Not one time have I had Facebook stop me and ask me, you might want to recheck that information, up until this year of 2020. Now, if y'all think that is by coincidence, I don't know what else I can say to you. But let me say this much. Because what you're going to notice is this. You are going to have a host of social media and mainstream media outlets that, in my opinion, are ran by and owned by Democrats. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just break it down for a second. They have their hands into so many different things. And this goes back into the death of George Floyd and when all those riots initially had taken place. When I was receiving emails from Lyft and Uber about how they are donating to Black Lives Matter, and all these other, Amazon, all of these other entities that are saying, well, we're going to do the right thing and donate to Black Lives Matter, it let me know what was going on. Now, if anybody thinks that Black Lives Matter is really about Black lives, absolutely not. It is a Democratic front. That's what that is. It is covenant with LGBT and transgenders. It has nothing in there to do with black men, even though black men are the vehicle that they piggyback off of, because we know it's predominantly black men that we have seen getting killed out here in the streets. But now notice they don't have no agenda in there that's going to help or benefit black men. As a matter of fact, they're actually against the traditional family that comprises of a mother and father and the household. But yet Black Lives Matter. You had all of these corporations deciding to now fund and funnel money into Black Lives Matter when this whole thing happened. I mean, if that's not an eye-opener to what the hell is really going on and what we really have taking place as a monopoly. These are Democratic operatives. The Democratic Party has their hands in this one way or another, whether they're outright owners of these companies or whether they got some type of say-so. It is no different than when you look at any product that you purchase out of a store. And what you're going to notice about that product, if you look on it has a kosher symbol. Whether it be an R, a C, a K. And what that kosher symbol is, it's a Jewish symbol, meaning it has their stamp of approval. So in order to be able to market this and sell it, it has to have their stamp of approval. So they have found ways to get their hands into things and continuously keep making money without them being there. This is why it has the kosher symbol. Likewise with Black Lives Matter and the Democratic Party. When you think about how many things they got their hands into, we might be able to say Amazon is one of them. We might be able to say Uber is another one. We might be able to say Lyft is another one. We know that Black Lives Matter is a Democratic front. We know this. You got CNN, MSNBC. We know that these are all the Democratic Party has their hands into this one way or another. And the reason why I say this is because they all align with the same talking points. Furthermore, we know that Facebook, they got their hands in it one way or another. Instagram, which is a sister website, if I'm not mistaken, off of Facebook, Twitter. And the reason why I say these things is because you cannot post an opposing opinion toward the narrative that's being pushed. If you do that, they will immediately flag your content down. This is what they do. They might even cancel you from having a Facebook account, an Instagram or Twitter account. This is what it is. That right there, like I told you, this is not only a monopoly, but this is monolithic thought. We can take this even further. We can go into Google, which we know Democrats got their hands into. YouTube, which is owned by Google. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because I want y'all to think about something for a second, because this is a way how they can monitor everything that goes on, how they can pretty much create their own agenda, push their own propaganda. And if you try to go ahead and go against it and buck that, guess what? They will shadow ban your videos. And that's probably just doing things in a mild tone way. So you really can't complain or report any goddamn thing. Hey, you're just not drawing in the views. Mind you now, they're shadow banning your shit. Because maybe if they start flagging your content down altogether, you might be able to refute that and maybe even get a lawsuit. So you know what? Fine. We're not gonna flag down your content. We're not gonna do that. Or some people, I've seen some people on YouTube say, man, listen, videos that I have posted have been removed. I didn't get no flag. I've gotten no strike, but X amount of videos that I posted up have simply been deleted. What do you think that is? So they realize, okay, we might be playing a dangerous game if we go ahead and flag those videos down. So what we're going to do, because if we flag it, we got to put a strike on the channel, and too many strikes on the channel come down. But if we can't justify it, then you know what? That could be a lawsuit on our hands. So you know what? The best bet probably to do, shadow ban the video, blacklist the video, or just delete the damn video altogether. Don't flag the channel. Don't put no strikes on it. Don't put it in bad standards. Just take the video down. This would not surprise me. But when you look at how the Democratic, and this is the reason why I say the Democratic Party has their hands in all of this. In what way? I might not be able to break it down to a nutshell, but when I look at the consistency and how all of these platforms mirror around the same set of talking points. And even to the point where people who at one point were Trump supporters are now talking Democratic talking points. It leads me to know that this is not only a monopoly, you're pushing propaganda, but this also lets me know that what you're generating is monolithic thought. This is another reason why the Democratic Party works so hard to use black women to shaming black men if black men decide to either one, choose not to vote, or number two, go ahead and vote for Donald Trump. This is what you classify as monolithic thought. This is what they're doing. And they have used all of these platforms. And what they have done is strategically position themselves damn near everywhere so we can control the influence and the narrative. We can't let people have the panel and do whatever the hell they want to. We got to have control over this. So what do? We will put our hands into every goddamn thing. And that's essentially what you have going on. Because even when you look at Democrats, at one point, you would see them disagreeing with each other. And I would say before coronavirus hit, you will probably find numerous Democrats who didn't agree with each other. Now all of a sudden they all anonymously and unanimously have the same set of similar, or if not exactly identical, talking points. When you can listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is a Republican, so it wouldn't even surprise me if they have gotten their hands into the Republican Party to a degree, or it lets me know that there's something else going on here. But when I can hear Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he did this back when this whole thing hit, he was sitting in his outdoor jacuzzi, smoking a stogie, telling people to stay inside and stop going to cafes and just stay at home and just follow these orders. Huh? That's weird. When you got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, talking about, wear your mask. I mean, a butt plug. That's exactly what he is. If anybody who doesn't know, that motherfucker got his buns plugged a long time ago. The minute they brought his ass into Hollywood, they bent his big ass over and slipped something up his buns. That's what they did. And I knew this. I'm going to say this much right now. I knew this. I forget what's the name of the movie he was in. But I guess when he was younger in the movie, he was out of shape and he was fat. And then when he was older, he became this chiseled up specimen that he is now. But at the end of that damn movie, he was on stage dancing around butt ass naked. And when I seen that shit, I said, okay. It was a movie with him and Kevin Hart. When I seen that shit, I said, okay, they done plugged your buns up. They done greased up your butt cheeks and slipped you in something in between your crack. That's what they done did. I mean, listen, man. Okay, let me just leave that one alone. But when you got The Rock, who is a former wrestler, now a movie star, telling you, wear your mask. When you got everyone running around with these talking points and the ending talking point is wear your mask, that leads me to question what we are seeing. When everyone is using monolithic thought, there's no disagreement. If you try to talk to these people about, hey, do you agree about wearing the mask? They will all say, yeah, we agree, wear the mask. That leads me to wonder what the hell is going on. Now, when you look at the Republican Party, you are going to notice, and listen, they might even have their hands in with this Republican Party as well. So this can be two sides of the same damn coin as far as I'm concerned. But the one thing that I have noticed with Republicans, you will find that they have vast disagreements. And that's natural because people aren't going to see eye to eye when it comes down to everything. People are allowed to agree to disagree. That's what's going to happen. Just like many of you who have encountered this shit that's taking place with this whole election and this coronavirus, many of you who think like me will have encountered arguments with family members, with friends. Because why? People by nature are going to disagree with each other. So when you see one political party that has their hands into so many different things and every last one of them run with the same exact talking points, to even where if their talking point was different at one point, it's completely switched up by now. But no better example than Dr. Anthony Fauci. You don't need to wear a mask outside. Now all of a sudden, yeah, wear the mask everywhere you go. That right there, if nothing else has you questioning this election, that right there should have you questioning what is taking place with this election. Was this a legitimate win for Joe Biden, which I don't think it was? Or was this a steal? Was this something that they were planning all along? And my position is this. Because even back in the Democratic debates when Kamala Harris was still running and you had a host of these other Democratic shines running for presidency. Honestly, listen, I'm no Democrat supporter. I didn't vote for either candidate because I just don't like what none of them are offering. But if you're going to go for anybody as far as a Democrat, the best bet you probably would have been Bernie Sanders. He probably would have been the best bet. Now, he stuck it out all the way to the end. But if you notice what took place, because Joe Biden got his ass handed to him by Kamala Harris and a bunch of other damn people, how did he manage to last this damn long? And what I've noticed is most of these people, or I didn't watch every last one of these debates, I don't know all the details, but I don't know if he beaten a single one of these candidates. What I seen was a bunch of candidates dropping out, Kamala Harris, Mike Bloomberg included, Pete Buttigieg, the rest of a host of shines we've seen doing this. Dropping out and immediately endorsing Joe Biden. Does anybody start to pick up on this? Am I the only one that's not seeing that as a fucking problem? Every last one of them dropped out and endorsed Joe Biden. And this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. But when I'm seeing something like that take place, you didn't beat none of these candidates. You're not the best candidate. You're not enthusiasing. You don't have charisma. I don't see how anybody would elect this person to be the top nominee. I'm not figuring this shit out. But if this is the case, this just shows you the level of stupidity when it comes down to the American people. That first of all, the fact that you got Donald Trump and Joe Biden as your two top, that right there is an embarrassment. But I'm not talking about Donald Trump because y'all already made that choice back in 2016. But as I'm looking at Joe Biden, and then immediately, conveniently, Kamala Harris just so happens to become his running mate. Man, listen, had he used Michelle Obama as his running mate, then maybe I could believe that he got this overwhelming support that he's stating that he had. If Barack Obama was going up against Donald Trump, I think Barack Obama will win by a landslide. That's just my opinion. But when you talk about Joe Biden, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I don't see who's out here voting for this guy. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't go out and vote for the guy, but I just don't see the majority of American people doing it. You can't say that 98% of black people went out and voted for this guy. That didn't happen. That just didn't. So where's he getting these numbers from? But when y'all take a look at this and we see that all of these Democratic candidates, Bernie Sanders would have been the best nominee as far as I'm concerned. I don't like his ass either, but he would have made a better candidate than Joe Biden. Then how do we explain Joe Biden now sitting or about to be sitting in the White House and Kamala Harris just so happened to conveniently become his running mate? A running mate which the American people rejected over a year ago. Somebody explain this to me. So they rejected Kamala Harris over a year ago, but yet people selected her to become vice president? It's not adding up. It really isn't. And honestly, this is what I believe, because I told y'all this a little while ago. Joe Biden's not going to last a full term. And when he drops out, Kamala Harris is going to become the vice president. I mean, not the vice president, but the president. Which is what I believe they really want to do. Shit, we can't get Kamala Harris in there by vote. So what we have to do is we got to weasel her way in there. And perhaps Joe Biden is the best option. Why? Because he's going senile. Many people know he's not strong enough to stick it out 4 years and do the damn job. Many people know he's not going to last. So listen, this is what we want you to do. And like I told y'all, if you notice the pattern with the Democratic Party, everybody follows suit. So all of you presidential candidates, here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop out. Bernie Sanders, you might hang in there just a little bit longer, but you're going to eventually drop out. And every last one of y'all going to get behind Joe Biden and endorse his ass. That's what you're going to do. Joe Biden, you're going to pick Kamala Harris as your running mate. Within the first 6 months, when your head start hurting you don't feel good, guess what? We got your severance package for you here, your early retirement. Go lock your ass back up in the goddamn basement. Get the hell out of here. Kamala Harris, you now become the new president. This is honestly what I believe they're doing. Because nothing is adding up. It's not making any goddamn sense. I don't believe Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. And once again, I don't believe Trump is the best president. But I'm not under the impression that Joe Biden managed to beat Trump by a landslide. It's just not adding up. And when you look at the voting count, and I think these are the total votes altogether, I believe you need like 270 votes, 260 electoral college votes to win the presidential election. Trump started beating Joe Biden by a landslide. Then overnight, all of these mail-in ballots start coming in and Joe Biden starts leapfrogging Trump. What I noticed is that Trump stayed at about 214. Joe Biden just kept on leapfrogging, kept climbing, while Trump's numbers stayed stagnant. Not even gradually increasing, but just remaining completely stagnant. It would have been more realistic had it been neck and neck. Okay, Trump is close or he's trailing behind just a little bit. No. It almost was by a goddamn landslide, and I'm sorry, I'm just not buying that. It's not making sense to me. Like I told you, Trump's numbers at some point just completely stopped. Sat at 214 and did not budge. Done. Not going up, not by one, but stagnant is what we've seen. So if people, if that's not enough to have people open up their eyes, then I don't really know what else I can say. If that's not enough to have you really wake up and think to what the hell's going on here, then I don't know what else I can tell you. If you think that this presidential election was a fair election, then I don't know what else I can tell you. Because in my opinion, I believe that there's something else that took place here. And this goes back into something that I stated in my last video. For many of you who think that by simply going out here and voting and casting a ballot is somehow going to solve your problems, then this is a clear-cut example that no, it absolutely will not solve your problems. Now, what they'll tell you is that, hey, you got the power. You American people got the power to elect who you want to. I don't think this is who the American people elected. That's the only problem. I'm not buying into this. So as we're sitting back and we're watching this and we're seeing what's taking place now, if I'm right on what I'm saying, if this election was somehow rigged, if my suspicions actually come back to be accurate, because we know that Trump plans on going to the Supreme Court. Now, whether he's successful at that or not, that remains to be seen, but we got to just give that time. But if my suspicions are accurate, and if what I'm saying is close enough to spot on or spot on, then that speaks volumes of this Democratic Party. And this is another reason why I do not trust them. I do not want another Democrat back in office. And just as an example, I believe the Republicans gained more seats in the Senate, but yet lost the presidential election. I don't know. That's just not making sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but honestly, that's not making any fucking sense to me. Because that right there should tell us what the American people want. But if what I'm saying, once again, is accurate, then that should leave you to really, really wonder what the hell's going on. That's what should really scare you. And I want y'all to notice what they have played on and what they've done with the American people, especially gullible black people. They've preyed on your fears by telling you we got to get the orange man out of office. Because why? He's a racist. Mind you now, for those of you foolish Negroes who went ahead and voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you don't even know their history. You know nothing about their track record. This is essentially what we're dealing with. But yet y'all went ahead and voted for these people. Y'all went ahead and voted for this guy. Now, as far as Trump is concerned, he hasn't written any legislation or policy that has massively incarcerated your black ass. He hasn't written any laws or rules that has done this. But I can tell you who has done this. Joe Biden has. Kamala Harris is responsible for locking up more black men than anybody else. So I don't know what else are you thinking about, or what is it you're thinking you're going to get when it comes down to these candidates. But this is what y'all believe. And once again, you know, I don't know what else I can tell you. And if this election was not an honest election, which I don't think it is, and the Democratic Party played some manipulative parts in it, because we know they have their hands into so many different things. Like I told you, Black Lives Matter, CNN, MSNBC, I believe Fox News, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google. All of these mainstream and social media outlets, Twitter. This is another reason why you can't just go on there and say whatever you want to. And anybody who opposes their position and can actually garner an audience, guess what? Eventually your content is going to get flagged down, because they're not going to stand for that. If that right there doesn't have you questioning what we are dealing with, how they have created a monopoly to where they can take control over the narrative, and you're sitting back literally wondering what the hell is going on. If that doesn't have you wondering what they're really up to, I don't know what else I can tell you. Because that right there in itself should scare you. Because if they would lie to you about this, if they would manipulate you in such a way, what won't they do? And this is for those of you who are diehard supporters of this Democratic Party. Now, with that being said, that's all I got to say in this video. And I'll catch you on a later date.